Hello, welcome to this live stream, Thursday live stream, and this is going to be a nice casual sculpting session, basically. I don't want to have to sit here and show you how to use things to the same extent that we did on Monday when we were doing the dragon. And first of all, thank you for joining my live stream. I know that a lot of people, it's late at night for a lot of people, and I'm just very thankful that you are turning in for this. And if you want, I can put a poll up later on YouTube to see whether or not you want to change it from 7:30 to 8:30 or from 8 till 9, because I know it's a little late for some people to stay up past 8:30 till 9:30. It's quite late for me as well, but I'm getting old. So the point of this Thursday live streams is just to have. I'm just going to sculpt, and you're going to see what I can do, and I'll take questions. I'll if you want to know a little bit about how I do things, and just let me know in the comments. Please be patient. I don't have a producer, so I will have to look at the screen for the chat and see what people want to talk about. So I might be back and forth. So also, I'm not sure if people care, but I do have a webcam. If people want to see my face or anything like that, then please let me know in the comments. I'm not sure if people actually want to see my face. I think the only time people see my face was on a ZBrush live stream when I was doing a ZBrush live stream with Maxim. I think that's the only time some people have seen me since then. So yeah, just let me know. So the project we're going to do tonight is going to be a very quick and easy one. I'm not going to finish it tonight. I'm just going to start it, and if you want, you can join along, or you can just watch what I'm doing. And it's going to be a orc bust. So let me just share my screen quick. So I'm going to jump into ZBrush now, and this isn't actually the orc bust. This is something I've been working on in my spare time. Let me just turn off these banners. Where are those banners? 1 second. Overlays, that's the one. So I've just been working on this in my spare time, and I guess this is kind of like a little preview for you guys to have a look at. First of all, can everyone hear me all right? If you just put a thumbs up in the chat, that would be great. I'm not sure if I'm coming across it on the internet. So this is a sort of creature I've just been working on in my spare time. Thanks, Cryptic. Thanks, Joseph. It's a sort of bird man, I guess you'd say. I'm kind of running out of ideas, to be honest. I'm sort of working through sculpts and looking at what I've done before, and it's just getting harder and harder with all these sort of sculpts I've done in the past. It's just getting harder and harder to make things in ZBrush that people haven't seen before. So yeah, this is just a little bird man, but we're not going to be focusing on this. I just wanted to show you it really quickly. So you should be seeing this time-lapse video coming out sometime in the future, and it should be available soon. Thoughts on, sorry, I'll just chat quick. EONZ, thoughts on Blender sculpting? Any chance for you to do some sculpting videos there? Thanks. Yeah, I tell you, I worked with Blender when it first came out. When I was first in university, like when I was in university, about God knows how long now, it must be nearly 16 years ago. I tried Blender, and I think the furthest I got to sculpting was a pencil, but that was because it was the very first Blender program, and I know it's been much better lately. So yeah, I think I'd like to jump into it at some point, but I do know that industry standard is ZBrush, so that's why I tend to stay within ZBrush and the mainstream industry standard stuff. I do realize that the programs are very expensive. I've even had to cancel my Maxim license because I found that too expensive. And for all of these live streams, I am actually going to be using this ZBrush license, so the ZBrush 2022 0.7, and that should be obtainable for everyone to get, hopefully. It's the Pixelogic version, so it's the last one that Pixelogic brought out with the rolling license. So I'm going to be using that one because I find, because even in the industry, right, the ZBrush license that you use is not Maxim. It is actually 2022 still. They haven't gone past using 2022. So don't be afraid to jump into ZBrush 2022 and work with it, because it is industry standard. I do know that they're trying to force Blender or get Blender into the market, but if you really want to work in the industry, in mainstream industry, you need to know some ZBrush skills, unfortunately. Well, I say unfortunately, I mean fortunately. So yeah, so I'm just gonna grab a head plane. Now, just gonna say no to that. Now, a lot of people will say that using AI images is not great, and I do agree with them. But for this project, I have just gone into Pinterest and I've just typed in orc bust, and as you can see, there's just a lot of AI images in here, and they don't look too bad as long as you're not copying dead copying everything that is in there, and you're making it your own. I don't see the trouble. It's more of a reference guide than it is for anything else. So I just went on Pinterest and I just collected a few things. We just hide this video image, sorry. So I just found a few images online, and I'm just going to use these just to have a look at basically whilst I sculpt. I'm just going to drag this down. This is a PureRef, by the way, and you can grab a PureRef license. Oops, I need to find the PureRef license. So you can go down to download PureRef at pureref.com, and you can grab a license there. And that's just this little image referencing software, and you can build a library of images in there, basically. So with that, I'm just going to turn my camera on so you guys can see me. I'm not sure if you guys care or not, but that's what I look like. Hello, nice to see you, everyone. Joseph, who's a member, by the way, thank you very much for being the first member to my channel. Is there any chance to purchase perpetual Pixelogic license like this for 2022? That's a good question. I haven't seen anywhere online that you can get it, because I haven't actually had to look for it, because I just kept it on my computer, and I have a perpetual license that I just move from computer to computer. I'm sure there is some places, because I mean the industry still use them, so there must be a place you can go and get them, or go and grab one. So I'd just look online for Pixelogic ZBrush 2022 download, and hopefully there'd be something there for you. Only from an existing owner, from what I understand. Oh, is that true? Thank you, Robert Bachman. Sorry, I probably ruined your name there. But yeah, I guess existing owners. But ZBrush 2022 is probably the best one, because I know it's very expensive for people to buy the Maxim one, and it's a pity, because they have a lot of good tools on the Maxim license. It's a pity it's so expensive, really. I mean, even for me, it's too expensive. That's why I had to cancel it, basically. So just going to move this over to the side. I'll put it over here, I think. So I'm just going to go ahead and start sculpting this little orc head, and I'm using a plane from ZBrush, and this is basically built into ZBrush. And a lot of people are thinking, a lot of people will say that it's cheating to use a plane or head plane when you're starting off. Yes, there is some people that would say that, but I would say that anything that makes your job quicker, especially when you start to know how to use a program, you just want to jump in there and get things started. So just, use a head plane. It's not illegal to. So I just start off just going to use a move brush quick. And just pull some of this out. I'm not too worried. Again, I work in a very destructive manner. So I like to make sure that I can destroy things whilst I sculpt and make sure that I'm able to have fun in the sculpting stage, especially with the beginners stage, like the block out. So I typically do my have my geometry in Dynamesh, which is already set to Dynamesh. I'm just going to turn the blur off. Turning blur off because I don't want to smooth my detail that I sculpt. I don't want to smooth it out, basically. So, moving on, just going to start messing around with the move brush because the move brush is very important. The move brush is very important at the beginning stages because if you have a low res model, it's even easier. You just want to sort of pull and push your model into the sort of shape of your character. It's just difficult to explain, basically. I normally do this with music on. Actually, let me just see. I mean, I don't know if people would want music on, or I do have music. 1 second. Quite like this one. I just put something on in the background. So, yeah, the next thing I do once I have my overall shape, and it doesn't take too parts around. Normally the top of the head's quite small on the orc. Also, don't forget to work with perspective turned on, because otherwise you will just kick yourself later on if you're doing it all outside of perspective turned on. You just turn this music down a little bit more. Do let me know if you want the music on or not. It's totally up to you guys. I can do without it, but I just, I like to hear music in the background. So as I was saying, don't work with perspective turned off when you're doing organics, because otherwise you're going to run into a world of hurt later on inside of, if you take this out of ZBrush and you think it looks really good without perspective turned on, because you've been sculpting with perspective turned off, it's going to have like a fish-eyed lens, because once you take that into a different program, it's going to have a fish-eyed lens look on it, and it's just going to ruin it completely, and you have to go back in to ZBrush and fix it. So just make sure that your perspective is turned on, and then the draw up here, I just change it to 50. You could stay between 50 and 60. That's normally like a camera lens focal length sort of thing. So I'd stick it to 50 because it's just a button that's close to 60. And then you could just carry on sculpting. So once I have, let's say I have the face molded with the move brush, I'll then just come in and I'll start picking out those massive forms. And if we just have a look at some of these orc heads, I mean, this is the best thing to do, really. I know a lot of people are worried about their anatomy, sculpting tech skills and stuff like that. But if you know a little bit, but you're really stuck, then you can still just go in, grab a fantasy creature, especially creatures, because you can get away with a lot of things when you do creatures, because people see them as a fantasy creature. They're not part of reality, so you can get away with more mistakes if you're a beginner doing creatures than you can if you were doing like a human anatomy or something like that. So if you are sort of stuck, or you just want to have something really quickly created, I'd definitely go for like an orc bust, because it's just really easy to do, really. Just grabbing the play build up. So another thing I like to do is use as little brushes as possible. You do not want to use all the brushes. I'll just show you all the brushes, actually. Let's just look at this. Whoops, you just move that out of the way. So as you can see, there is a heck of a lot of brushes here, and you will not need you will not need all of these brushes. There's a lot of brushes in here that are just put in here for no reason, I'd say. The majority of brushes that I tend to use is the clay buildup, the dam standard, the smooth, trim dynamic, the move brush, and the H polish. You know, that you'd only need like 10 brushes out of all of these. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. And you can get away with a lot of sculpting work using just the clay build-up brush. You do not need to worry about using the smooth brush. In fact, I would actually tell people to try to sculpt a character without using the smooth brush at all, because it just hinders you. When you start smoothing things, it starts to make things look more like a blob of jelly or blob of clay or something like that, instead of having those imperfections that you might get when you're sculpting. So, I mean, it might not look like it right now, but there's a lot in here that can be taken all the way to final model without having to smooth. And it's just because, you know, it just especially the clay brush, the clay build-up brush, it just gives you that nice clay feeling on top of your model. Oh, another thing before I forget is the material. Now, I've got a lot of materials, right? So don't worry about that. The main thing to know is do not use the ZBrush standard material that opens with. So that's that matcap red thing, which is this. This is awful. Never use this material. Well, I'm saying that, but yeah, never use this material. It doesn't give you very good depth of field on your sculpt, as you can see. I don't know whether this inside area is deeper than the top part of the head here, you see, because it doesn't give me that much depth perception. So I like to start off with the, what do you call it, matcap gray. This is the best one for starting off the sculpt, and then once I get into the finer details, you just move this one out again. Once I get to the final details, I'll use the basic, and that gives me even more like shadows and highlights on my model. But for starters, I like to keep it nice and loose with the startup material, this gray material. Cryptic. So instead of smoothing, do you generally just build up over the more broad clay strokes? Yeah. So it's a mixture, right, of building up and taking away. So Z add, Z sub. Using the Alt button on your keyboard, you sculpt inwards, and adding, you let go of the Alt button and you add to your model, basically. And that's pretty much how I sculpt. Instead of smoothing, which is Shift on the keyboard, because you see, we've now lost all of that beautiful work we just did because we smoothed it out. Instead of smoothing, I'll just lightly take away or add. You see, it just makes it a lot nicer to to sculpt with, basically. So I'm gonna come in here. Oh, let me just change the song quick. I'm sick of that song. Let's just put some nice background music on. Yeah, so generally, I would spend about 90% of the time inside of the Dynamesh stage with just Dynameshing it until I get it to where I can't physically put any more detail into it. And then I'll re-topo it and then add the finer details. So the majority of the work that I do will be inside of Dynamesh. And that's not everyone's prerogative, but it is how I work, basically. We should look at the chat quick. Thanks for the live. Oh, thank you, Tet Kandena. Oh, so I probably ruined that name as well. Yeah, been finally learning Cryptic Visionary, been finally learning ZBrush, and the smoothing almost felt like resetting. Thanks for explaining that. Yeah, it's a horrible brush. It's good later on when you are just cleaning areas up, but do not use it as your default to go back on, like to undo. If you need to undo, then just undo and start again, like Control Z to undo. You have the timeline up here of your model, so you can scrub through and see where you had it, where it was better maybe. Joseph, how can I store the downloaded materials to pop up with the default ones when I start ZBrush. So you're going to need to go into your C drive where ZBrush is in your C drive, and in there's a folder called Startups, and then in there will be the materials, and you just unload all the materials into that folder, and you'll see a bunch of materials are there that are all the default ones. You just unload into there, and it should then, when you open it, pop up with all these materials here that I have. And by the way, all these materials you can get online on Pixelogic or Maxim library. The reason I have all these materials is because I usually, when I started ZBrush, I rendered using ZBrush for concepts, and then I've also got Keyshot, which is a bit more professional to use Keyshot, but it's a lot quicker to use ZBrush to render. Plus, you get a lot more control later on in Photoshop when you're sculpting. So when you're compositing. So yeah, that's why I use all these materials. Well, I don't use all of them, but I use a few of them at a time to render. But that will be coming later on, so don't worry about that. So just carrying on with this sculpt. So we're just blocking in, or I'm just blocking in the major areas which I can see. So I can see, I mean, this is a AI image, right? So it's really exaggerating this face of the orc, and that's actually really good, because sometimes you'll try to think of an orc's face and it'll just look a little bit too soft in the areas. I think AI does do a little bit of better rendering when it comes to the sort of character or facial structure. So it can really help to show how big pieces are in the AI image, and that can help you with your sculpt. And exaggerating these things will just help anyway in general. So I'm just still using the clay buildup, just going to carry on blocking in. Now he's got an actual top lip up here, so I'm just going to block that in there. It's not going to look perfect at all. None of this looks perfect at all. If you feel like your character is, looking a bit flat or not what you think it looks like, it's all part of the process. So you're going to hate it like for a good 2 hours of sculpting. You'll probably hate this. But once you start seeing it develop and evolve, you will start to like it, and it will just start to make more sense. And also remember to broad strokes at this stage. Big broad strokes. You don't want to have detailed strokes. Detailed strokes, basically you make the brush really small, and then you come in really close and you do just around this eyebrow area, and then you spend half an hour trying to make an eyebrow wrinkle, and then you zoom out, and all of a sudden you can see, oh shoot, I don't actually have anything on my model, and it looks really good in that one area, but it doesn't look good at all from a distance. So what I tend to do when I'm sculpting is I tend to move around the model a lot, and that actually helps keep my eyes fresh and keeps my eyes darting around my model, basically. And that's what you want to keep doing when you're sculpting. You want to sort of move around your model as much as possible and just enjoy it, really. You're basically just copying what you're seeing, really. It's quite enjoyable and relaxing. Just gonna, now if you can see here, it would take me quite a while if I use the clay build-up brush to try and make this head in the back here round, right? Because it's got loads of pointy parts on the head, on the planes. So instead of using the clay build-up, I'll then just use the trim dynamic. I'll just come in and trim those down, and within minutes or seconds, you'll have yourself a rounded head. And you just grab the move brush and just make his head smaller, because you're going to have a smaller sort of skull for his brain, and a larger front part. Yep. Here we are. And then I'm just going to add the vocal cord or the neck. Now, you don't have to know every single bone or muscle when it comes to sculpting. A lot of people think that they have to go and buy an art book full of anatomy and, you know, sit there and spend months learning how to name every single muscle or bone in the body. But I never really learned all that. I just know from constant practice to just keep practicing and practicing and sculpting as much as possible. And then eventually you just start to see a lot of things, like muscle groups that you don't know the names of, but you know that they should be there. Not to say you can't, you know, go in and start to learn all the muscle groups. It's totally up to you. But if you're a beginner, just try to block in the fundamental or the key areas of your model. A good technique or a good strategy to use, if I just grab something quick, I'll show you. Oops. 1 second. So if you come over to my ArtStation page and you go over to, I'll just move this out of the way. You go over to anatomy on my ArtStation and you go to any one of these here, mainly the ones that are further away. This one took me a little longer to do, but these ones here are all little studies, right? And I think they have times on them. So you can see here, I spent 2 hours sculpting this female head. Now, 2 hours might seem like a long time, but when you're sculpting and you're just trying to get a good-looking female or a good-looking head sculpt, it can go really quickly. I mean, we've only been on for about half an hour, but I mean, you know, it just flies by, and every single one of these, you know, very quick sculpts. And that's the key when you're first starting off, is to make as many sculpts and to test yourself. I would say spend the first 3 hours sculpting a head, then take a break, then come back, do 2 hours on the same sort of sculpt, see how far you get, then cut that down to 1 hour and see how far you get, and move on to the next head, and then the next head, and the next head, or the next body part, or anything like that, just so you're being quick, basically. I think they do the same sort of thing when you learn how to draw. If you go to these drawing lessons, they'll have someone say, I want you to draw this figure in negative space, so using black and shadows and highlights, and then they'll give you 15 minutes or half an hour to do it, and they'll keep cutting the times down, and so you have to draw quicker and quicker and quicker and try to remember how to draw faster. And that's essentially the same thing that you do when you're learning how to sculpt. You just in your own time, basically, doing the same thing. So that's the best way, I would say, you can learn to sculpt, is to just practice, 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 really. Okay, so just going to move this down, give him a bit of a chest area. On that neck. If you have any questions or further questions, just please let me know in the chat. Also, if you want, you can become a member of the YouTube membership, and then you can grab these live streams and watch them back as much as you like in the archive section. As I will be taking them off once live streaming is finished, I will be putting them in the archive for people who are following. So now that I have a base head, I feel like I need to start adding some structure into it, or some extra pieces into it. So I'm going to add a subtool, a sphere, shrink it down, and this will be my eyeball. So I'm just moving this into place. That might be a bit too big. There we are. It's going to mirror this, as merge it into one piece. Turn symmetry on. Make sure local symmetry is turned on. Otherwise, if you have local symmetry turned off, it's going to be doing some weird things here. See, it's trying to scale up where the point was. If you turn local symmetry on, it'll scale up where the model is, or the model will scale up where the pivot is. So just keep that in mind as well. The next thing I like to do is to just duplicate the eyeballs and then sculpt the eyelids. Now, I do this because I know that the head sculpt, or the main body of the sculpt, the head, is going to be Dynamesh a couple of times, and every time I Dynamesh the model, the eyelids will disappear or become destroyed due to the fact that you're basically Dynameshing or remodeling the model in Dynamesh, and it can make very small details disappear, and that's what happens with eyelids. So I like to duplicate my model, my eyelids or eyeballs, and then use a clay build-up brush and build up, and then take away in the middle, because that's where the eyeball is. Build up in the middle, or around the edges, sorry. And don't worry about being too clean, or, you just want to get as much work in there as possible. Use a move brush as well. I think the eyeballs themselves are too big, so I'm just going to shrink these down. He looks a bit sad right now, but we'll fix that in a minute. We'll just bring down this brow. Let's see what's going on in the chat. I'm 40, Joseph. I'm 40. Is it too late for me to step my foot in this industry? I've worked in IT in my entire life and bursted out, and my goal is to switch career and do this. Yeah, I don't think it's impossible. It's never too late to pick up a new skill, and I think 3D art is one of the easiest things to learn. Easier things to learn, especially sculpting is easier to learn. If you're doing a lot of hard surface stuff, I know Cryptic Visionary does a lot of hard surface stuff in Maya and what he does, and it looks far too complicated for me. But it's very interesting. He does what he does, and yeah, I think you can definitely pick it up at 40. I mean, I'm 35, and I've been doing it for nearly 20, maybe 18 years. So it's not like yeah, it's not too late, basically. If you grind and grind and grind, because I know when I finished university, I basically had about 3 years where I just grinded every single night, and then obviously when the pandemic happened, I grinded even more. But then I started to share what I did, and that was kind of me progressing my skill level. But if you work on your skill, on the basic skills, and just keep working and working, you should be able to get into the industry. Anthony Watts, I was in my 40s when I switched into doing sculpting professionally. Go for it. Yeah, see, even Anthony Watts is in the same boat as you, I guess. So yeah. Right. I'm going to change this very boring music. Let's see if we find something else that's more boring. That'll do. Okay, so yeah, like I was mentioning before, the eyeballs or the eyelids, sculpt them separately, because now I can go into the face and I can do as much as I like to the face, but I'm not affecting the eyeball or the eyelids areas, which is really handy. Next thing I want to do is append the cylinder, because this is going to be these massive teeth or tusks, whatever you want to call them, in his mouth. Now we're going to make ours that so it doesn't have an open mouth, or the mouth can't open. So we don't have to worry about doing the inside of the mouth. This is purely a conceptual piece, basically. Make sure symmetry is turned on and local symmetry is turned on. Now I'm just going to smooth each end of the cylinder, and I'm going to grab the pinch brush, PI on the keyboard. I'm just going to pinch the top piece. And this is the easiest way to make, teeth or tusks or whatever you're trying to create. Just got a sharp point. Grab the pinch brush and just pinch the end. And then you can use the move brush to sort of shape it a bit more. I just want to turn off the symmetry, and I'm going to move this into place. Just, here we are. Scale it down a bit. I think the face here is too human. You can see it's kind of too human, right? It's got a jawline that's way too human. So what we're going to do is we're just going to move the tooth out of the way first. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab the masking brush. So that's Control on the keyboard. And grab the lasso tool by holding down Control and then selecting lasso. I'm just going to lasso the bottom jaw. It's probably better to do this with perspective turned off and from the side. Now, when I'm sculpting or modeling, I tend to snap my camera in angles, in perfect 90-degree angles or snaps, because it's easier for me to grab everything that I want from this side, as well as when you're moving things, you don't want to be moving. You don't want to be moving things using the arrows like this, because it can move them really awkwardly and out of, really the wrong direction, basically. So snapping it to the side and then making so the point is on the jaw by hitting Alt down and dragging. And then I could just move it in the side view, and it's going to keep it nice and straight as it goes forward, like that. Now, we come to a little bit of an issue here with this sculpt, because if we turn on the polyframes, or the wireframe, you want to call it, you can see it's kind of stretching too much in these areas now. We don't have enough detail on our sculpt in order for it to be manageable or sculptable, or sculptable, in order for it to be able to be sculpted on. So the best thing to do is to Dynamesh it so that we can get more detail. So if we come over to the geometry tab, we just pull this resolution up just a little bit. You don't want to go too crazy, because at the moment we're sitting at about 65,000 polygons, and we just Dynamesh by hitting Control down and drawing outside the mesh. Then you can Dynamesh it, and now you can see we have a lot more geometry going on. I think we have too much geometry, because it's like 300,000 right now, and we're still basically sculpting the basics out. We're not actually into the actual detailing stage. So we can actually bring this down a little bit. 200 will do. But now we have a lot more geometry to work with. Just solo this. A lot more geometry to work with, and it's going to help with that stretching as well. So now we can add that top lip at the top here. And just bulk out the top part a bit. And we're going to bring back that tooth into there. Garrett, where do I go to purchase your models if for sale? So you can purchase my models that I've created in the past through, let me just grab it quick. I got some funky banners going on here. Overlays. I'm still very new to all this. Sorry about that. So you can grab it on my online stores. I've got quite a few of them. I've got Flip Normals, Gumroad, ArtStation, and ZBrush. You can go in there, and there should be the high poly models of the Timelapse models that I created. And those are predominantly made so that people who are students or are learning can, purchase them quite cheaply, I think, and then have a look at them, rework them if they want. They can rework them. They can go take them to the final piece as well. They want to retopo. They don't want to do them high poly modeling, but they want to do the retopering and the rigging and the animating. Then they can just use those as a tool to use in their portfolio. And yeah, otherwise it's just going to be sitting on my computer in a folder doing nothing really. So yeah, go grab those high polys. I've even started to do some retopoing of them myself, so I'm starting to do some film and game versions of my models. So you get the UVs for the games and the UVs for the films, and it's kind of like a starting base. So if you just want to do the texturing, you can just grab that, grab the high poly, do the texturing, and then you got yourself a portfolio piece to show off. Anything to make it easier, especially for people who aren't interested in learning the sculpting side of things. They just want to do more of the sort of texturing, rigging, or topping and stuff like that. There we are. Okay. I would love to rework them. I like a few you made in the past on prior videos. Anyone I can contact. Cool. Yeah, they aren't available on your pages from what I see. Oh, that's unfortunate. There should be a link in the description box below where you can grab the high polys. But yeah, they're online stores there. So if you go to my ArtStation page, you'll be able to see it in the store section. Cool. So back to the model. So we say that we're going to place that tooth there. That's great. I'm just going to mirror that over, but I'm going to mirror it as a new tool because I don't want to have it connected just yet. I'm going to duplicate this one, bring it out. And I'm just going to roughly place these in here. And then I'm going to duplicate this one. Maybe make this slightly taller. Something like that. Yeah, that'll do. And we can move on to just add in some more shapes. So the more you Dynamesh, the more topology you get, the smaller your brush strokes will be and the finer they'll be, I find anyway. So once I've blocked out like I have here, and I've Dynameshed it to a little higher resolution, I'll just start coming in here with a slightly smaller brush and then just carry on adding levels of detail, So I know that the cheekbone's going to come around here. Oh, and there's also a method to sculpting organics. When you're using the clay build-up brush, which is the one I use a lot, it's best to not just sculpt like this, or haphazardly. The best way to sculpt using the clay build-up is to sculpt in the direction that the geometry is going, basically. So if you look at the jawline here, you wouldn't sculpt it going like this, You'd sculpt it like this. You build it up slowly. See? It's quite a thick jaw, actually. Might have to move the back here forward a bit. But essentially what you're doing is you're sculpting along the muscle, if you know what I mean. Not this way, but this way. Whenever you're doing using the clay buildup. You're doing it very lightly. You don't want to do it too hard. So just going to come in here. And you can make up some of these muscles if you need to. I mean, it's good to keep it anatomically close, but you'll find that you can just add some stuff in that just helps bring your character to life a bit more. There we are. And you're going to have a bit of a forehead here, so we just add these lines in here just to portray where that forehead is. Just one second. Joseph, you can find here the models and tutorials from August. Thank you, Joseph. It's difficult doing this and trying to make an entertaining or sort of live stream at the same time. So thank you very much for that. It's never too late at this point to use the move brush to move things. You know, you don't think that because you've got to this point in your sculpt that you are hellbound and fixed to this sort of stage. It's not the case. You can do whatever you like still. You can still come in here and let's say you want to cut an ear off or shrink an ear. So if I'd say I want to shrink this ear because I don't like the size of it, I'm just going to mask it off. And then I'm going to shrink it down. Kind of looks like the sort of orcs from what's that film? The Fifth Element, doesn't it? These. Has anyone seen that? The Fifth Element? Anyway, yeah. So don't be afraid to change your model at this point in the sculpt. It's all still up for grabs. Let's hit this stage. I'm just going to quickly make a poll quick. I just want to get a general idea of what people's what times are better for people. So I'm just going to make a quick poll here. Just put that there. Also, if we start the stream sooner, then we can actually, if we go over 9:30, then it's not a problem because, you know, we just have more time in the stream. So, I mean, if you start at 7:30 and we go till 9:30, then we get more of this sort of characters or creatures or whatever built. Instead of just having 1 hour, it would be, you know, a little longer. So totally up to you guys. If you still like 8:30, then we can still do 8:30. I'm just going to pull the back out a bit. And I'm just going to add this muscle in here. And you get that bodybuilder neck on the back, don't they? You know, that big chunk of muscle on the top of their neck, or flab of skin, whatever you want to call it. Using the dam standard. Dam standard is great for using to cut in to your model and define wrinkles and stuff like that, or define directions as well. So again, another brush to use quite sparingly. I think I've only just started using it in the sculpt. Yeah. Grab the, just gonna sew everything. I'm just gonna go inside the nostril and just carve out 2 holes in the nostril. Don't worry about the stretching in here, because once we Dynamesh again, it's just gonna, we can just go in there and fix it. And just gonna add some wrinkles along the nose. And make sure this brow comes out a bit more as well. So, what's your favorite kind of orc that you've seen in film and games and entertainment? Because there's quite a few different looking ones, isn't there? I think my favorite one so far has to be either the World of Warcraft ones or the Warhammer 40k or Age of Sigmar type orcs. You know, those are really orc looking or orcish looking. But yeah, let me know in the comment section what your favorite orcs are. There's also the Hobbit. The Hobbit had really cool looking ones. I know a lot of people are a fan of the Hobbit because they love the Lord of the Rings version, which is more prosthetics and actual character, like actors in suits and stuff. But I do like the disfigurement and in the face, you know, the way that that looked. And I think you couldn't really do that with prosthetics too well. And I can see why they used a lot of CG for that sort of look. I think they did go a little overboard with CG, but the goblins in the Goblin Mountain were brilliant. I loved them. Absolutely loved them. We won't talk too much about the Rings of Power. That's kind of a sore subject, I think. It's that funny because I actually worked on the Rings of Power on the first season, and I was one of the build TD artists that worked on the cloaks for the orcs, so the Digi doubles. So they gave us a load of scans from the on-set suits that they wore, and I had to rebuild them or use the scanned data and then texture them with the Digi doubles. So that was my contribution, as well as some of the armor on some of the, not the Rohirrim, what's the other guys called? The guys with the boats. Oh, I can't remember what they were called. But yeah, Digi doubles, fun stuff. So, Warcraft movie. Paul Bono's Orcs, Trolls, and Ogres are my favorites. Robert Buckman. Yep. Same. Oh, I can't speak for toffee on this. Vakabia. Hello. The Fifth Element. Yeah, love the Fifth Element. Cryptic. I was just going to say the Warcraft ones. They were really well done in the films. Oh yeah. I think it was Better Workshop. I think that worked on those, and they had the whole. Because I watch films and then I go and I watch the making of films. So yeah, the making of the World of Warcraft orcs was just. They had to completely make a new hair system for that film. I mean, it was crazy. Karmat the King. Hey MLW, what FOV and ZBrush do you usually use for sculpting portraits and full body? Like I mentioned before, when I'm doing sculpts, I have it on horizontal and 50. The reason I have it on horizontal is because I don't know if you can see it. Probably doesn't come out too well on the screen. Let me just. I don't know how to do it. I forgot how to do it now. There's this one. If I. You can see it. That's a bit bright, but you can see that the canvas that we're working on is in landscape, right? So it makes sense to have the camera horizontal, which is landscape, instead of vertical, which is portrait. So that's why I have my draw as horizontal and 50. If I was doing portraits in a portrait sort of canvas, then I would do it the other way. Cool. And now I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. So I get these little lines up. These little lines are really handy for framing your model, and it just makes it so that you can, you know that how close you are to the edge of the canvas. So just gonna, as you created any creatures as well for Rings of Power. I didn't create any of the creatures because I was a build TD and I wasn't part of the creature team. I was part of the build team, and the build team normally gets random stuff, so it's more of a generic 3D artist role. So you'll be, one day you'll be, sculpting rocks for some film or TV advertisement or TV show, and the next day you'll be making a Digi double on the Flash like I have, and then the next day you're constantly just being pushed and pulled to different sectors in films when you're a build TD. The creature department is the one that you want to go for if you are wanting to make creatures. I definitely want to be a concept artist more rather than an actual creature artist. I want to be on the conceptual side because they have a lot more fun. I think they get to make all the cool designs and ideas. In fact, I'll just share the screen again. 1 second. So if we just go to my ArtStation, this one, I don't know if anyone's seen this character, but this is the first full creature I created whilst working at DNEG in 2024. The director saw my work on ArtStation and saw the sort of work that I did for YouTube and stuff like that. And he asked for me directly to come up with a concept, which is this guy. Come up with a concept for one of his creatures that he's making in his film. And so I did, and it went through a couple of iterations. And eventually he then asked me to build the entire creature, textures, and UV mapping textures. I wasn't doing any of the hair systems or the cloth simulations or anything like that. It's mostly the build side. So yeah, I helped out with this creature, and this was probably my shining glory because you can see I had a lot of fun just coming up with this creature that they wanted. This was called Munja. Yeah, Munja. It's a mythical creature from Indian folklore that they wanted to make a film for. So that was quite interesting. Right. What else is there? Is this film available for rent or buy already? I'm not sure. It's definitely out. It was out in India. It was predominantly for their audience. You could probably find it somewhere on Amazon Prime or a DVD. I'm not sure. It's probably like Netflix will probably have it on their Indian Netflix. So if you have a Surfshark, VPN or a VPN, you can hack into India and see their Netflix, I guess. See if they got it there. So cool. I've seen it when you posted it on Instagram. Thank you. Yeah, where was I? Okay, so if I wasn't speaking as much or talking on a chat, I would have probably finished this one. It doesn't take too long to come up with a cool idea. And this, if I was to hire someone who was a beginner or student or someone fresh off the boat and they didn't have much in their portfolio, but they had pieces like this where they show initiative in sculpting, I would definitely put them forward for hire, because a lot of the stuff you will learn on the job as well. It's not like they're going to just throw you to the wolves. Well, I say that, but it's not like they'll throw you to the wolves and expect you to know everything. It's in the game studios. They are very, very helpful when it comes to new people and new hires. Also, the film studios as well. They'll know your limitations, and they'll just hope that you sort of learn whilst you're on the job, basically. But if you can have a really good portfolio, or a really nice portfolio to show your techniques and stuff, then yeah, it will take you a long way, basically. And having something like this, even if it's half done, and let's say we had a time frame we were going to sort of have for this, then yeah, it's still a good piece. You can still make a nice turntable out of this and show it off. You got most of the fundamentals down, sort of thing. I know it's coming up to, was it 9:30? Yeah. But I think I'm just going to go a little further with this. If you guys want to stay, you can stay. But I'm just going to go a little bit more on this. If you have any more questions, please let me know. I'm probably going to go until about 10 o'clock. So let's see how much more of this we can get done. We're definitely not going to get it completely done, because it's going to take a little bit more time to finish it off. But we can save it. You can either save it for next Thursday or for another time. If you want to see me sculpt something different next Thursday, just let me know. But if you want to see me finish this in the way that I normally do when I'm doing my time-lapse videos, to a finished piece, then please leave a comment, and I'll read them and see what you feel. It's getting quite enjoyable, this one. I do actually have times when I completely get brain freeze and I just can't sculpt at all. You don't see those models. We never show those models when we're artists. But yeah, I do tend to get brain freeze. So it's not just new people to sculpting that gets it. It's everybody gets that sort of stuckness to them in their career. But this one's coming along quite nicely, actually. Voxel Forge Miniatures. Hello, folks. Hello. Melo Coma. I hope I'm saying these names right. Hi, what's the best way to learn anatomy more interactively than just looking through books and tutorials? It's a good question. I was part of the old school that just learned it. Like, I just put, what was it called? I think they still have a site called lynda.com, and that's where I learned everything. And I just tried to pour as much knowledge into my head as possible when starting off from lynda.com. And I think it was really cool, but it was pricey, it was quite pricey to buy the subscription. That's why I'm trying to do these tutorials, live stream tutorials, which are free. So I'm, not making any money off of these. I've turned off monetization for these as well. But I think it's important for artists who are sort of maybe struggling a little bit to get into the industry, to learn from experienced artists. I know a lot of experienced artists don't want to share their secrets, and they don't want to give the, hand over the keys. But at some point, someone's got to, right? Someone's got to. You got to teach the next generation of artists. Otherwise, they'll just go to AI generation and just do it through AI generation. But it's good to know the fundamentals and stuff. So I hope to do that with these tutorials and these videos that I'm creating, like live streams, to encourage people to, try it out, work on it, work on your own pieces, learn and have fun. Basically, if you're not having fun, then you're probably in the wrong job, or you'll think you're not having fun. You won't have fun. And I know that watching tutorials like from other people or other places might be a little bit boring, but you got to get through that slog and just work on it, really. Not much else to it. Everybody starts off at 0. Right. There is Zygo body. Look it up. It's an interactive 3D body. Yeah. I've got 1 second. I got a couple of these little statues, right, that you can buy online on Amazon, and they're just really helpful for. Let me just make this 1 second. There we are. So you can see this little guy here. You can grab one of these from Amazon, and it's half skin, half muscle, so that you can see where the muscles are. And when it comes to sculpting, you can just reference this sort of character, especially if it's, biped human anatomy. And there's a female version as well. Just put that back. I've also got two books. Sorry. Forget the microphone's not on my face. So I got this one, which I highly recommend everybody buys. Oops, there's a camera. This is a definite buy for beginners. It's got really good sculpting and also drawings for anatomy. And then you also have this one, which I recently bought, Anatomy for Sculptors. Again, this one highlights the muscle groups and the key features for female and male anatomy. Yeah, just gonna put those to the side. Right, let's go back to the sculpt, shall we? So, I definitely go out and buy those ones. They are really fundamentally important. Let's just see what's got. Yeah, definitely want to see this model to be finished. There's I could look back. When you finish the concept of Munja, was there other tasks for you in the film, or just handed over the concept and the model, and they took over the other part, retop animation? So I did the concept, the sculpt, the retopo, the texturing, and someone else did the what do you call it? The look dev. So look dev artists just make it look really nice in the look dev, and then we shipped that. Oh, and someone else did the hair and anything with hair and fibers, and then we shipped that whole project over back to them, and then they took it over and rigged it and did all the animations and stuff. Yeah. To build portfolio, would you advise? Sorry, this is Rogard Z. To build portfolio, would you advise to focus in specific things like character, monster, props, etc., or just do a bit of everything and later try to focus? That's a good point. I have been on boards where we actually look at students' portfolios and we sort of grade them and show them how to make their portfolios better, or how to make their CVs better so that they can get better job prospects. And the one thing that we kept getting told by nearly every artist that was coming out of university, or beginner artists that came from universities, was the lecturers told them to build on their environment art, even if they wanted to be a character artist or creature artist. But they were told to make props and environments and little cans or watering cans, or little prop items. And I just thought to myself, that's not good advice. If you want to be a creature character artist and you have a passion to be a creature character artist, be a creature character artist. Don't do the prop side or anything like that. If you want to be an organic creature artist, be an organic creature artist. First thing you want to do is build on your anatomy. So grab a book, grab a model, and try to model a human female and a human male in a relaxed pose. Then sculpt some faces, sculpt some separate anatomy parts. So if you're worried about how your model's going to look if you do all of it at once, then break it up into sections. Break it into the leg, break it to the arms, break it to the torso, the face, and eventually you can put them all together and make a human or sculpt a human from that. But yeah, if you want to be a creature artist, be a creature artist. Look at films, watch films, play games, look at creatures, look at ArtStation, follow people, look at other artists' work, get inspired. Thank you. I've picked up so much from watching your streams here on YouTube. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Yaban, I can't say that one. Sorry. Yaban Haria. I hope that's right. Cool. So moving on. Just going to come in here. I'm actually going to shrink the nose a little bit. If you look at these concepts we've got, just grab this out. If you look at the concepts, right, you'll notice there's a slight, there's something that's familiar in all of them, and that's the nose is always quite small. And when you look at World of Warcraft noses and stuff like that, they are small. So we're just going to come in here and just shrink that nose down a bit more. I mean, it doesn't have to be much. That looks good enough, Yeah, that'll be cool. Again, please keep rotating around your model. You want to keep rotating around your model. You don't want to stay in one place too long. You want to be able to see everything around your model, basically. Yeah. Tomorrow. Hi, Marcus. I have a Bohemian portfolio of I can't say that images, concepts that have been constructed in ZBrush and Blender. Should I note that software used on each piece or just present the images? I mean, it's not a taboo to work in Blender, so you could just add them as whichever one. Growing, bulging, right? Growing. Yeah, you can add your Blender or ZBrush, whichever one you made in whichever program. It's not a problem. But I would focus, if you're going for industry, I would focus more on ZBrush. Blender is something you can do in your spare time, because I know it's a very good program. It is a very good program, and I'd love to get into it. I can't find the time at the moment. But yeah, if you're going industry standard, go ZBrush. If you're just wanting to test things and play around with things, and Blender in your spare time is fine. It's more like for me, it would be more like a hobby to learn Blender rather than using ZBrush. Right, so I'm not going to do the full body of this character because that would just take forever. I just want to do the bust, right? So I'm just going to move it to the side. So move the camera to the side. And I'm going to grab the clip knife tool, or the knife curve tool, sorry. And I'm just going to cut this back piece off a little bit, because I don't need all of this in the back. That was a horrible cut. Yeah. That's a nice straight cut. And it just cleans up the geometry a little bit. Probably going to mess it up later anyway, but it's just nice to have a clean geometry. There we are. Grab the clay buildup and just build this side of the jaw here a bit more. Also, learning the shortcuts for your brushes is going to help you and speed up the process a lot more. So you'll probably see sometimes you'll see the brush menu come up but then disappear very quickly. That's only because I know the shortcuts very well. So if I wanted the damn standard, I just go BDS and I got the damn standard. There's other artists that would have displays, like their whole display down here or on the side will have all the brushes they want, and I mean that's another way you can do it. I tend to try and keep the UI system as bare basics as possible for beginners to not feel overwhelmed when they when they see my ZBrush UI screen and they just get completely confused about what's going on. The less things that are on here, the less interference going to be for me as well. I don't want to have buttons everywhere around the screen. I just want to have exactly what I need to sculpt. So that's why when you see my screen, it's not a mess basically. I've got a few buttons down here, but other than that, it's the basic layout of ZBrush. Hope everyone's having a good time. Well, I hope I'm not boring anybody with my ramblings about about ZBrush or anything. I know I'm stopping and going on this character, but I'm trying to keep a sort of live stream entertaining as well as informative. So yeah, it's difficult, man. I thought making tutorials was hard, but live streaming is way harder. Kind of on the spot as well. Like if I don't make this character look good, I mean, look a bit more like a fraud. Cool. So just gonna pinch these cheeks in a little bit on the sides. The good thing about this live stream though is it gives me time to rest my eyes whilst I read the chat, you see, and then I can come back and I can say, oh, look, that doesn't work there, or that piece looks weird. So it's actually not that bad doing live streams. Otherwise, you get blocked. Yeah. Right. That's not too bad. If you haven't already, you can become a member of the YouTube channel, and it's only $4.99 a month, and you'll get 8 live streams archived. So that's comes to about 60p if it's British pounds. Sorry, 60p a video. So you'll be able to rewatch these live streams or the tutorial live stream that's on Mondays, where we're recreating the dragon from Dragonheart, and I think that's going to be a nice. That's more of a tutorial version. So instead of me sort of talking all the time about unrelated topics, it'll be more of a formal tutorial where I show you how to sculpt using tools inside of ZBrush that I normally use to create the dragon. So if you want, you can grab the 2 latest or the 2 previous live streams, which we started on 6th, and there's also one before that where we set up ZBrush, and I'll show you how to set ZBrush up for the tutorial. And then the next live stream was the block out of the dragon. So we blocked out the dragon's body, and we made it so that we can now go back. We can go in next Monday and start to sculpt it. So if you want to catch up with that, then you can become a member either on my YouTube channel or through Patreon. The Patreons will get the files for the tutorial, as well as not seen before tutorials that are coming out this year. So you get a lot more if you become a Patreon. Tier 3, I think it is. Right. It might not look like I'm doing much. It might just look like I'm touching things here and there on this model, but you know, it's a slow build up now. This is the enjoyable part. You sort of just mess around with your model until you're 100% happy with how it looks. Right. Just gonna make the front smaller. Okay, I'm gonna give a bit of a cliff chin. Just here, makes it look a bit more interesting. Just a plain boring chin. I'm just gonna move this face out a bit. There we go. We are probably going to do some asymmetry sculpting later, but my usual rule is to keep everything as symmetrical as possible until you definitely need to make it asymmetrical. This just helps speed the process of sculpting, because otherwise, if you do everything asymmetrically, it'll take 10 times longer. There are artists that like to sculpt in asymmetry, and more power to them. But if you're trying to create a concept, it's better to do everything as much in symmetry as possible before you you do some asymmetry on it. It's just going to help you later on. Right. How's everything? Everyone in the chat, is everyone okay? How did the polling go? Oh, it's 50-50. Great. So it's either 7:30 or 8 o'clock that we start. I'll just leave that up there for a little longer. See if we can change anyone else's mind. If you have any questions, please let me know in the chats, unless you just want me to be quiet and sculpt and see what you can see if you can learn anything from that. Yeah. Yeah. Joseph then goes option C, stay with 8:30. Yeah, I'll probably have to. If there's no definitive answer, then I'll just do 8:30 again next week and put another poll up and see if anyone wants to, if you can change your minds next week. Quite deep in that. So how many of you guys are actually students or professionals in this sort of role, like art role? I'd like to know what your sort of level is, basically. Yaban Ayara, yes, I do sculpt in perspective. When you're doing organics, you need to be sculpting, of course, in perspective. Otherwise, you'll run into the issue of fish-eyed when you take your model into Maya or anything like that. So definitely work into perspective when you're sculpting organics. Daniel TDF student, cool. First year, second year, third year, or masters? I'm a lead environment artist with a massive passion for character art. Dave Newhouse. Oh, that's cool. I think you're in the wrong live stream if you're environment artist, or do you want to dip your toe into character design? Eternally. I'm quite new to digital. I'm a traditional sculptor from the FX industry. Oh, that's cool. Yabana Raya. I hope I'm saying your name right, man. That's cool, man. Traditional sculptor. So you kind of the basics on how to sculpt. It's just translating those skills from traditional to digital, I guess. And it's not that much different. It is actually. It is much different. It's much easier, but yeah, it's. I work in a similar way when it comes to traditional sculpting or sculpting. I start off with a head plane, and then I'll add clay, which is the clay buildup. So you add clay, and then you take away and stuff like that. So it's relatively similar. In fact, if you're a traditional sculptor, you probably have a better time sculpting, and you come up with much better results because you have that knowledge base. So yeah, that's cool, man. Dave Newhouse. I've been watching you for ages, as it's refreshing from sculpting rocks. Yeah, environment art, sculpting rocks. My God, thank God those days are behind me for now. I mean, rocks aren't that bad, but when you've seen the same rock 1,000 times, yeah, it can get annoying. Mellow Shoma, is there a way to getting around Dynamesh function to close off spaces between meshes which is a problem in sculpting pieces like fingers? Yes, you can get around it by separating the fingers a little bit more. So instead of having it like this, you can pull them out slightly more, because no matter what you do, Dynamesh is going to try to merge them anyway. You can also up the resolution so that Dynamesh can have more geometry or resolution for the fingers, so it doesn't try to merge them in the sections in between. The other way you can do it is to sculpt the fingers separately, and then before you come to finalizing your model, you can merge everything together and Dynamesh it then. But you're still going to run into that issue a little bit. Depends on how you want to sort of pose your fingers. If your fingers are closed or in a relatively closed manner or doing something weird, it's going to try to merge those sections that are close together, those faces that are close together. If it's an A pose or T pose or anything like that, or actually an A pose is better, and you do that instead of this, then it's going to help a lot more. Daniel TDF, 99.9% of my compositing and rendering skills come from your videos and tutorials. Oh, that's great, man. Glad I could help. Joseph, student, started with props in Blender and later on met with ZBrush, and your work led me to choose this road. Oh, that's great, man. Yeah. Yeah, I'm so glad that my work has, reached so many people. To be honest, I didn't think it would reach this many people. When I was doing it during lockdown in COVID times, I just started it because I was sort of a little bit bored, because we were all locked down, weren't we? So I thought I'd just make a YouTube channel and, dip my finger in there or dip my toes in there and see how it would go. And next thing you know, I've got quite a big following, which is crazy. I'd still like to get to that 100,000 mark though, at some point. But yeah, now I'm doing these live streams because I want to share my knowledge with people, basically. And with that, I think we're going to call that a night, because I don't want to go any further with this little guy until we are refreshed and we can look at it with fresh eyes. And we'll jump back into it on Thursday, and I'll show you how to Dynamesh and to retopo and move into the more detailed section of the character, or the detailing part. And we could just, we can talk more about anything else you want to talk about. If you have any topics you want to sort of talk about, then next week, put them in the chat. I'll try to read them as much as possible. And don't forget, Mondays is the dragon tutorial, and we'll be working on the head sculpt for that, or starting to work on the head sculpt for that. And hopefully we'll have a good time with that one. Like I said, that one is strictly a tutorial, so there won't be much interaction with the chat, but you guys will be able to follow along, because I'll try and make it so you guys can follow along better than tonight, basically. If you have any, like I said, any topics of chat you want to talk about next Thursday, it could be anything you like to do with film or TV or games or anything, just throw it in the chat and we can see if we can have a little discussion about it. I want to thank Joseph Buncosi, I hope I'm saying that right, for being the first member of the YouTube channel and supporting my work, and everyone else for coming online tonight. I want to thank you guys. I want to thank all my Patreons, if they're in the chat as well. Hopefully there's some in there. And so thanks a lot, guys. I know Cameron's here, but I'm looking over here because I'm looking at the chat. But thank you very much for joining me on this tutorial, or on this live stream. I'm just going to end it now. So have a good night, have a good weekend, get rested, because Monday we're gonna go hard with that dragon sculpt. So yeah, thanks a lot, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in more exclusive content and want to support my work further, then please check out my Patreon page at MLW_creative for more. Also, view past live streams you might have missed in Tier 3 tutorial support, where I will be archiving future streams moving forward. If you are interested in other full-length tutorials, brushes and models, then check out my online stores for more useful content. I would also like to thank all my subscribers and patrons for supporting me for this long. Again, thanks for watching and stay safe.